Hey all, Jason Levon, priest at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Welcome to another edition of Pause and Pray. Yet again, this past weekend, Christy and I had the blessing of spending it with two of our grandchildren, an almost 6-year-old girl and 2-year-old boy. And as is always the case with them, spending a weekend with them is this wonderful experience of more life and more energy and more joy than I could ever imagine. There's always leftovers that I'm living off of for days when it comes to that. And that was symbolized this past weekend in all of the baking we did together. We like to include them in cooking and baking. And we spent time on Saturday baking banana bread. And on Sunday, our 6-year-old granddaughter learned how to bake pancakes or make pancakes. And in both cases, we made so much more banana bread and she made so many more pancakes than we could ever eat in one sitting. And like the life and the joy and the energy that we experience with them over a weekend together, there's plenty to go around and leftovers that we're living off of for days. I don't know about you, but I need that kind of experience again and again in my life. Because so often I find myself trapped in a mindset of either orness or scarcity, that there's not enough to go around. Marketers are brilliant at that, getting us to hand over our money without thinking, because we see that tagline, while supplies last, and we're afraid there won't be any more to go around, so we snatch it up as soon as we can without much thought. But there's other ways we find ourselves trapped in that mindset of scarcity. We see it all over our society, where there's this sense that some have it and some don't, and then all of the tension that exists in between that. We draw all these clear lines between those who have the truth and those who don't, those who have the power and those who don't, those who have wealth and those who don't. And we see it politically, racially, economically, all over. It's wonderful news that in the midst of that kind of a world and mindset, we encounter in Scripture an entirely different lens through which to see life. That when it comes to things like life and grace and mercy and fullness and joy and peace, there's more than enough to go around. There is no scarcity. In fact, there is always leftovers waiting to be consumed. And we see that happening in the gift given to us by the church in today's daily office gospel, from chapter 15 of Matthew's gospel, which reflects on the miracle of the feeding the thousands with a few loaves, 7 to be exact, of bread and some fish. I'm standing by a window in St. Luke's Church that depicts that miracle of the loaves and the fish. And there are many layers of meaning in that passage, but one of them is this layer of divine abundance, that there's no scarcity when it comes to God's life and love and grace and peace. That there's more than enough to go around. In fact, the text says that after thousands and thousands were fed, there were 7 baskets of divine leftovers. And what a gift and invitation to pause and pray about today. How we have experienced those divine leftovers in our lives. Maybe it's the leftovers of joy and life and energy that we live off of after grandchildren go home. Or maybe it's experienced in the meaning that comes and spills out and overflows in our lives thanks to loved ones, family and friends and partners who walk with us. Or maybe it's found in the experience of doing something that we're really truly passionate about and the incredible abundance of life that fills us with and spills over with. Or maybe it's experienced when we find the grace to pause in the middle of a busy day and just breathe in with appreciation and gratitude. And the more we come to see just how many divine leftovers are present in our lives, the more hopefully our faith will be inflamed to go out in our little corners of God's vineyard and be about the work, to help others, to help everybody see that there's more than enough to go around. There doesn't need to be the division, because when it comes to things like real life and fullness of life and peace and joy and meaning and sustenance, in God's eyes and from God's vantage point, there's more than enough to go around. and there will always be leftovers. God's peace and blessings to you all.